Hello, Podcast Nation. Welcome to the Be Great, Be Kind, Steve Kim Experience podcast. I am so excited as I have one of my new friends, and we connected through social media on Instagram, Jarek from New Door Mortgages, who's here to kind of speak his truth. We get to kind of know him. What I absolutely love about Jarek is he actually sent me a message, and we share a very similar path and story in that we were both educators. We threw that hat off, and now we are in the wonderful world of sales. So, Jarek, thank you so much for making your way here, spending your time with me, especially because you and your lovely wife are expecting baby number 2.
Oh, yeah.
She's late.
Yeah.
So you are on 100% baby watch right now.
The phone is there.
So if Jarek has to leave midway through the podcast, it's not that he's rude or he's bored or he doesn't like me. He just got a legit emergency. So Jarek, thank you so much for making time to be here.
I'm very honored, Steve. Thank you very much for having me.
So Jarek, you reached out to me a few months ago. I think it was right before my appendectomy, my surgery, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, I get so many DMs from people being like, hey, are you looking for a mortgage? Hey, are you looking for this? They're just trying to sell me on stuff. You did something kind of genuine in that you kind of told your story. That was the thing. It wasn't like, hey, Steve, do you have any clients that I can help? Mortgage. Right? But you were just like, hey, we share a very similar story. I used to be a teacher too. And from there, I was like, okay, you know what? There's a connection that can be made. And so I sent you messages like, let's get together. You came down to the office. You brought me a bag of goodies, which I thought was amazing. And we just instantly hit it off.
Yeah.
So why? Why send it? What was kind of the purpose? How did I show up on your radar?
Yeah, so I guess as a mortgage agent, one of the things is to contact realtors, and it was I've done that. I've kind of reached out to some realtors with good success and not and whatnot, and I think that when I started looking at it, is like, who do I really want to work with, right? And I started looking, and instead of just finding a realtor profile and say DM, hey, I started really looking into the individuals, right? So going through the timeline, what are they posting? Is it good? Is this something that I could click with? And again, you never know until you actually meet that individual.
Yes.
But you kind of get a sense of who that person is based on their profiles and whatnot. And so when I saw that, especially in your description where you said like, I'm a teacher, and like you said best dad in the kingdom or something, I was like, done, man. I love this. Like, for me, family is so important. When I see somebody that's like the first line is like father, I'm like, wow, that's already a game changer, right?
Yeah.
And so I reached out and I was really intrigued by how you were doing your videos. So that was one thing, and I was like, wow, the amount of stuff that you're putting on, the content, like putting content on Instagram or social is hard enough.
Yeah.
Right? Creating your own is even harder. And then when you're creating like exceptional content like yourself, I was just like, who is this guy?
Okay, that's it. End the podcast. Thanks so much.
Just unfollow everybody else, and I'm like, I need to meet this guy. And when I saw your story as a teacher, I was like, this is incredible, because we do share that similar story, and it's a very different mind frame,
huge,
from where we were into where we are now. And so it was nice to connect. It's kind of like I remember I was teaching overseas for a while, and the first people I tried to meet out were like Canadians or Polish people. Like, it's just like somebody you can like know
connect with. Yeah,
you connect with. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's a teacher. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I started getting like super excited, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so I just decided.
It doesn't show like that. It doesn't show at all.
No, I'm not excited whatsoever. But no, and that was the thing, is like, for me, I sending out like DMs saying, hi, I got a mortgage, I kind of put myself in that position. I'm like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want people messaging me like that.
Yeah.
And so I was just trying to figure out, like, who can I connect with? Is there a connection possible? And so I just tried to meet with like really genuine people. And you seem like that guy. I sent you a message and we started talking, and I was so happy when we met, and
And that was the kind of difference in how you approached. You didn't actually talk about the fact that, like, hey, I'm a mortgage broker, let me service your clients, things like that. You came from a point of like a connection. Like, I used to be a teacher, right? It's crazy that you're doing this. I'm doing this. Let's chat. And I was like, yeah, awesome, right? You tried to build rapport before trying to sell. In our industry, that's how you win.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just continue to pummel people, sell, buy, use me. but you have to build rapport, right? And so one of the things that I've been very conscious about, especially in social media, is I do not put everything real estate related.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes I forget to even post something. Hey, I just sold a product. Oh, I forgot. I should put that on there so people still remember that I'm a realtor. But just like you, when I go through your feed and stuff, I can connect with you with so many different ways. As a father, as an entrepreneur, as a hard worker, as an honest person. I love your social media campaign right now, on Milton, where you're highlighting local places, which I think is phenomenal. It's great. But we connected that way though, right? Because your dad, like you understand family first. And so when I set up my social media posts, like my accounts, I made sure that people knew I'm a dad first. It's family first, everything else is second, right? And so that speaks volumes to kind of who you are and why we kind of connected.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome. So tell us about history. So who is Jarek?
Oh man.
Like you're a mortgage broker now, sure.
Yep.
But kind of tell us, let's go back a few years.
Oh boy. You know what? I have a, looking back at this, it's just I've a crazy path. I've dipped my hand into so many different things, worn so many different hats. And I think like it all started, like the last memory that I have is probably, going back to like swimming, like nearly drowning. My mom threw me in the pool. She's like, swim, right? And so it's kind of like, you got to fend for yourself. My mom was a single mom. I'm a single child. And so it was just like me and her the most of the time. And we really relied on our grandma as well.
Yeah.
And like family, that really like tight knit community, that's where it kind of all came from.
Sure.
And my entire life was my mom, my aunt, and my grandma.
Wow.
And they were super supportive of everything. My mom, single mom, like worked her bum off, like just crazy to give me every opportunity that was available.
Yeah.
But like she I remember
giving me goosebumps. No, it's like it's true. Like, but your mom, was your mom born here?
Yeah, she was born. She was born in Montreal. I was born in Mississauga.
Yeah. And
what was interesting is that like my mom is super involved in the Polish community, like very, very involved. She's an organist, and she recognized the benefit of having our Polish culture and still upkeeping that. And so she actually started a group for me when I was a kid to help with that. And so it started off as like a church choir and turned into a vocal group. And now it's like a full-on dance group that travels the world. Right now they're actually in Mexico, and I'm house sitting for my mom. She gets to go in Mexico, and
the cats are okay, Mom.
Yeah, the cats are okay. Everything's good. That's kind of where it started. And then from that time, again, she tried to give me every opportunity, and she signed me up for like ballroom dancing. So when you look at me, you're like, oh, this guy's a ballroom dancer.
Yeah.
We ballroom danced for like more than a decade. We were invited to represent Canada in the Junior Olympics, where we won gold, which was pretty awesome.
What?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It's like, we went to the States, and it was a whole thing. We went, we did competitions, mostly in the States and Canada and stuff like that. And
that's wild.
Yeah, you know what? One of the best things that came out of it, though, was getting kind of literally tapped on the shoulder to dance in a movie with Antonio Banderas. It was a movie called Take the Lead, and it was a movie where there was all these people, they were in detention, and this ballroom dancing teacher thought that it would be a good idea to teach them ballroom dancing as a detention kind of thing. And so we went through all these auditions, like hundreds of people. We were, I think, one of 12 couples that were able to dance in the movie. So it was awesome. We were like the elite dancers. So
so you're in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh man,
dude, one of the
we
best.
Gotta find that.
Yeah.
We gotta find it and clip it in this podcast.
Oh, you will see
on the
it,
video.
Man. It was funny when we went to go see the showing and in Toronto. We were in the theater, and like you never know what they're gonna choose, right?
Yeah.
I remember when we were doing the actual movie, there was a lot of times like we were filming for hours and days and whatnot, and but again, you don't know what they're gonna use.
Yeah,
so
of course.
We're sitting in the theater, and probably within the first 5 minutes, I recognized one of the scenes that we were doing, and I'm looking at the screen, and then boom, my whole face just plastered all over the entire screen, like literally edge to edge to edge to edge, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's me! Right? And people were like, shh! Yeah. This was like,
how old were you when this?
Oh man, this was 20s, early 20s.
Oh really?
Yeah, early 20s. So it was exciting. We got to dance in a whole bunch of other movies, but that was kind of the bigger one.
Oh man,
and
I can't wait to find that. Honestly, I can't wait to find that.
It's always on the Women's Network on Channel 27 or something like that. So it's always on there, and it's funny. We still get like royalties from it. It's pretty awesome.
Really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Can I ask like what kind of royalties you get?
I'm
always curious. I mean, we'll talk about it. But that's so cool.
But yeah.
So you obviously had some phenomenal women in your life.
Yep.
Who kind of helped to shape and pave the path for you now. How was that? Like, what was it like to not have like a father figure around?
Yeah, you know,
like, did it ever bother you?
Not really.
Okay.
No, like I never met my father. He left before I was born, so it was like a tough situation for my mom.
Yeah.
But like, and my grandfather passed away before I was born. My uncle was in Poland, so it was like this group of like strong women. And like my mom, my aunt, my grandma, like they are the like strongest women I know, right? And they just pulled it together and did it all for me. Like it was unbelievable. Like I'm so grateful. My wife is a strong woman too. Like I'm very fortunate to be in this company, right? And like my mom to this day, like she's turning 70 this year, and she's like this dance group, Radość Joy. They just had their 35th anniversary, and she's like the director. Like she still does all the dances. She does all the
35 years.
35 years. Like she's doing this. She's still playing in the church, like doing all these concerts. Like she's in Mexico right now. She's just saying like, I just climbed a mountain yesterday, and like it's pretty awesome up here. I'm like, this is awesome, right? My aunt like digs up the garden like all the time with like pitchfork. Like it's like they are my role models, right?
Yeah.
And I've never, because they were so strong and so instrumental in my life, I've never needed that father figure, right? And it's kind of weird when you think about what I do. Like my passions are like construction. I love building stuff. Like right now I'm renovating my basement, right? Yeah. And I've taught that all by myself. Everything that I've done, I play rugby. It's like a manly sport, right? Yeah. It's not like anything else. And that was all in absence of a father figure, right? So no, there's a lot of people online. Sometimes I listen and be like, oh, you need a father figure, and I'm a walking testament that you really don't.
I love that. And you said something right now. You just shared something that you said that you were fortunate enough to have such amazing women in your life. And I've always held true to the fact that I truly believe men are not wired to do what women can do. Like I don't, the just sheer ability to sacrifice, multitask, get stuff done at the highest level. I honestly, I just don't think men are wired that way.
Well, I can tell you right now, like, big shout out to my wife. Like, I've been, like I said, house sitting for the last few days, and don't listen to this, Mom, but I've been cutting your trees. So I've been trying to like take care of the house and do all the stuff that she's not able to do because she's so busy with other things. That my wife has been taking care of our like 14-month-old, and she's 9 months pregnant, and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like I sent her a message yesterday. I'm like, I am so appreciative right now. Like, it's just a hard time right now.
Yeah.
And like, you are amazing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Like, I believe you're absolutely right. There are some things, like, if I was to do all those things, I'd be complaining. And
like, I look at it just like, like, as gross as this might be, but like giving birth. Oh, I remember when my wife was giving birth to our first daughter, and we were there in North York General, and huge shout out to Nurse Millie. She's like, okay, you ready? And I'm like, yep. And I'm holding my wife's hand, rubbing her head. She's like, no, I need you down here. And I'm like, why? She's like, because you need to hold the leg. I'm like, why? Right? And I was like, I don't want to do this. But the sheer pain that my wife was going through, there's no way.
Yeah, I
yeah, right? I'm like, there's no way I could do that. I know my limitations. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I could do that. So yeah, just, that's amazing that you were able to share that part of your life. So, okay. So growing up, you had phenomenal women, great, movie star status, not the typical childhood. So tell us a little bit about your teaching experience.
Yeah. So, like I went to Queens for my teaching thing, and
shout out to Queens.
Yeah, Queens. Right after Queens, I got a wicked opportunity to go overseas into Europe to one of the prestigious international schools there.
Okay.
And so I was teaching there for a number of years, and then I came back to do my master's. So while there, I was coaching rugby, I was traveling pretty much Europe. It was amazing, right? Really kind of a personal experience there. I came back to do my master's, and then I got on a supply list. And unlike now, right? Like, I got on a supply list in April, and in June I had a contract position.
That's crazy,
right? Here it's like, well, maybe in like June of like 2090 will you get a contract position, right? So it's crazy. I was very fortunate, and so as a chemistry teacher, I love chemistry. It's one of those disciplines where you have to know your numbers, and it's all about problem solving and very different ways of thinking.
Yeah.
That's why chemistry is literally one of the hardest subjects in school. So I did that for a number of years, and then I got kind of tapped on the shoulder again to be a department head of the science school in our district. And it was a very rewarding experience.
Yeah.
Very intense,
Yeah.
but very rewarding.
What do you mean intense? Tell me about that.
Oh my goodness. So, I guess
teacher war stories.
Yeah, seriously. Well, let's start off. We don't go home at 2:30 and not have anything to do. We don't have weekends off. I was as a department house. I was Department of Science and also another specialized program, an SHSM program, as Specialist High Schools Majors. And so, you do all the budgeting, all the accounting, all the professional development, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a job in itself.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know that also as a department head, you have a full course load. So you're still teaching a regular teacher's gambit of classes in addition to all this stuff. So, it was just intense in time in terms of the amount of time put in. But I also took the program, especially that SHSM program, and I completely revamped it. And so that took a lot of energy. I brought in partners from the community.
I love that.
PO paramedics came in to help us out. We were dealing with a number of hospitals in the area as well. So it was just intense. It was like, for me, if I do something, I'm doing it. Like I'm 100% committed, and I will eat myself up to get it done. Right?
Yeah.
And so that was, I loved it. And there's a whole bunch of aspects that were very challenging with it. Wearing different hats, talking to the administration, but also trying to lead your department members, because when you're a department head, you're also in the same union, so you don't have power above them. So you can't say you need to do this.
Yeah.
It's all about motivation. It's all about trying to get people motivated to do it on their own free will. And that was, that's kind of where I think I did really, really well, because I did what you said. In the first year, I built that rapport.
Yes.
I understood who they were, what their pain points were, what their trigger points were, what made them happy, and then kind of started to build the department and programs around that, right?
Yeah. And
it's huge, right? If I came in like a raging bull saying this is going to change, this is going to change. First of all, I don't know what is working, what is not. So it's kind of it's not really a good way of doing it. But also by getting them involved, it just made things more easier, because they were part of it. They took ownership of it, and things were easier in that way.
It's so many times when even I shared with like my managers, the owners of my brokerage, other real estate agents, like seasoned agents, like 30, 40 years in the business, the one thing that they've always said is like, teachers make the best sales people. And I'm like, really? Like, why? And they're like, because you guys are patient, you know how to problem solve, and you're good listeners, which is exactly what you did in the first year.
Yeah.
Which is why you build incredible rapport, which is why people did things without you having to be like, hey, you need to do this. You kind of reversed engineered things so that people did it on their own accord, which is great. And that's really empowering people to do things, right? As teachers, you cannot I cannot get up in front of a bunch of cranky grade 8 kids and be like, you need to do this, 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 and this, and this, and whatever. They're going to tell me to F off. Right?
More so in high school.
Right? They're like, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
But it's building the rapport and then them realizing who you are, that you're truly there for them, and they'll do it, man. Like, they'll do things for you, which is phenomenal. So how long did you teach for?
I don't remember, man. It was
A long time?
Yeah, that was a while.
Okay, so why the change? Like, everyone has told me, my parents, best friends, everyone's like, are you crazy? You're leaving teaching, 6-figure income, phenomenal pension, weekends off, 2 months off in the summer. Like, that's the dream. Why did you leave? What was the motivation?
Well, see, like, that's the thing, is I never experienced that. Like, for summers I would be teaching. I'd be pulling 70, 80-hour weeks. Weekends were shot. And that's kind of where when I had my son, I had to step back and say, can I do this? Can I continue to be eaten up like this? To give my everything to departments, to my students. And when I kind of sat down, I remember one time I was working till like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. My wife took care of the son and put him to sleep. And then I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, there's no way I can do this. Like, I can't do this anymore. A lot of people have negative thoughts about teachers, and especially like, they think that, like I said, their workload is very small, but it really is. I mean, if you're one of those teachers that really, like I think you and I were, that really puts your all in, it doesn't stop. The job never stops.
No.
Right? And especially nowadays with the various hats we have to wear, mom, dad, psychologist,
huge.
This, like, it's huge, right?
Counselor, like, best friend, like, it's crazy.
It's crazy. And so, I had to come up to the decision where, can I do this? And the answer was no. And I know that if I continued to teach, this is the way that it would be, right?
Sure.
I'm an educator through and through, so whether I have a formal title of teacher doesn't stop anything, right? And so I kind of looked at it and I said, what would I want to do with this? I've done the department. I know the department head role. I know I don't want to do principal and VP. That's not the route for me. And so what do I want to do? And so I was kind of looking at my skills. And again, like I was saying with chemistry, it's all about numbers and problem solving and weird way of solving complex conceptual problems and all this kind of stuff. And I love that. Like I love looking at an issue and spending time to make sure I get the best outcome, right? And so when I was looking at what do I love, real estate popped in my head immediately. Like I remember I was a kid and playing Monopoly, like changing houses for hotels, right?
Me too.
And then or like going to Metro and getting those little flyers with the condos and houses, and like that was like my little enjoyment, right? I'd never had comic books. I had condo like brochures, right? And so this was something that was like very, very appealing to me. And I remember like going through the process when I got my own mortgage. I was dealing with a mortgage broker, and even though I was still reading up on everything. And I remember I was just like, I just want to learn more about interest rates or this and this. And then I just started like mass consuming, right? Mass consuming, and I was like, I was sucked in. I loved it. I loved everything about it. Like I remember like my fingers dancing over the calculator, figuring out like all these different things, right? Like that was me. And I kind of went back to that, and I brought a smile on my face. I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do, right? And so since then, it's been phenomenal. Like it's been a joy. I mean, we deal with some really tough cases sometimes. And those are the ones that I love even more, because these are people that were like rejected from every bank, and then all of a sudden they come to me, and we've been able to find maybe not like a 5-year fixed at low rates, but we're able to get them into the market because they need the house, right? Sometimes it's like, no, maybe you should wait a little bit. Maybe this is not the most financially responsible time to buy it, right? Let's come up with a game plan. And I have a number of clients that are like that right now. But sometimes it's like, hey, I need this house. Like I need to get in, and I don't want to this. And so we'll set up a game plan where we'll put them in like this, and we'll figure out how it goes from later on.
In our industry, though, I think that's very rare. Very rare in that you're telling me, Jarek, that like I shouldn't get this house. Like I get it, like, Steve, you're telling me I shouldn't sell? Steve, you're telling me to keep renting? But that's not what realtors are supposed to do. That's not what mortgage brokers are supposed to do. Aren't you guys supposed to be like, sell, right? Have me get into a big mortgage, or have me get a mortgage. Like, isn't that what you guys need for me to do? That's crazy. That's amazing that you do that. And I think that's a huge reason why we connected so well, is I just watch your whole body language. Like if anyone was to ever watch this and be like, hey, I wonder if Jarek's really passionate about what he does, just rewind about a minute, like 20 seconds, your whole body just changed. Fingers dancing over the calculator. Like, you love this, right? That's passion though, right? That's passion. So understanding that only makes you better to serve your clients. Give them the information that they need to hear. Because sometimes people are like, oh, really? Like, but I really want to buy, Steve. And I'm like, but you're going to be house poor. And you're going to be miserable. So just rent for another year, see how it goes, and let's reevaluate the situation. Because coming to talk to you is not like, oh my gosh, like, you're in sales, don't sell me on anything. It's not. It's helping to plan. Which is why people contact me even a year, 2 years before they're ready to buy or sell, because it's a plan. They trust your advice. So for people who don't know what a mortgage broker is, and I get this question a lot, because everyone thinks that, oh, if I'm going to get a mortgage, I need to go with one of the 5 big banks. That's the way my mom and dad and my grandparents did it. What is a mortgage broker?
Okay, so in Canada,
for those who don't know,
so in Canada there's a mortgage broker and mortgage agent. They're slightly different.
Sure.
A broker is somebody that owns a franchise, and they have to ensure the compliance of all the agents. So there's still a mortgage agent, somebody that will be able to help you with your mortgage needs.
Sure.
But they have a little bit more responsibility, right? I'm part of a wicked mortgage brokerage, mortgage district, and also part of a brokerage house, Mortgage Architects, and they have been amazing companies, right? So that brokerage has a broker, right? So a mortgage agent is just somebody that works with you to try to figure out what your financing needs are. We have access to a number of different lenders, including some of the big banks. But we also have access to alternative lenders, monoline lenders, which are lenders that only deal with mortgages. And then alternative lenders, private lenders as well. So we have a full gamut of individuals that we can tap on the shoulder to say, hey, we can get a mortgage from you or this, right? Each lender, some of them might have multiple products. Maybe just like a monoline lender might have just mortgages, but they have a number of different steps of products.
Okay.
All with their own eligibility requirements, all with their own terms, all with their own nuances, right? And really the role of a mortgage agent is to look at that and say, which one fits best for you?
Okay, so shed some light on that, because this is I get this, and I shared this with you before we were talking, got on the podcast, is people that I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, you may want to exercise the option to speak with a mortgage agent. And the questions that I always get is like, what do they do? What are they selling? How are they getting paid? Like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So when you have access to different lenders, why would let's say I'm a consumer, why would I choose to go with a mortgage agent like you as opposed to walking into like TD or RBC?
So
what's the benefit?
Yeah, so definitely, I mean, the amount of flexibility that we have is great. A lot of people that come see me only come see me after they get rejected by the banks, right?
Got it.
And I see that in a lot of new home buyers.
Okay.
Right? They always go to what they're comfortable with. I've always been with this bank, that bank, that bank, and they think that because I've been with them for 30 years, I'm going to get the best deal from them.
Yeah, no.
And it's usually not the case, right? And so once they get, if they see that that's the case, then they'll come see a mortgage agent, or they've applied and they got rejected and now they come see a mortgage agent.
Okay.
And so, that's one of the things that as an industry we're trying to change. We're trying to say, just come to us first. Like, we have access to these banks, but we also have access to all these other products and lenders. And so, sometimes terms will be different. A lot of people get really fixated on the interest rate, right? And that's a first question.
We got to talk about this.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So it's almost like the be all and end all of mortgages. Hey, what rate did you get?
Yeah.
Right? Like, they become so fixated on the rate. Why should we not be so fixated on just the rate?
Because there's like 7 steps before you need to think about that rate.
Okay.
Right? I mean, when we look at mortgages, the rate is really a number that the banks kind of put together to make it easy for consumers, right? But it's all in the fine details where the beauty or the terror of a mortgage kind of lie.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, when we meet the first time, I'm going to be asking you questions like down the line. What are you thinking about in 5 years? Or are you thinking about a family? Are you getting married? Like, do you own a car? Like, all these different things, because all of these things have to come into play to see, are you getting the best mortgage product?
Yeah.
I mean, in Canada, it's like, I think 6 out of 10 mortgages get broken within the first 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of people don't read the fine print until they do that, and they're realizing they're paying like tens of thousands of dollars to break their mortgage, right? And this is really where a lot of different things shine, is like, for example, in big banks, they have things called posted rates, right? And so these are the big rates, the 5-point-something%, and you never end up paying that, right? But why do they use that? Well, because they know that most people will break their mortgage. And so when it comes down to paying a penalty, they're going to be comparing your rate to that posted rate. And whatever that difference is, you're going to be paying that difference, which could be tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Whereas other lenders that don't necessarily have posted rates, their penalty to break will be much less, like in the thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a big thing. Like, in a lot of places, like banks as well, will also, and I'm not knocking the banks because we put a lot of business into banks, but banks will always push a 5-year fixed. But there are other options than a 5-year fixed. There's variable, which is right now the fixed is actually less than the variable, right? Which is like Stranger Things, like we're in the upside down right now, right?
Scoops ahoy!
Seriously. But there are other terms as well. Like sometimes maybe a 3-year, a 2-year fix, right? So there are options for you if you know that you're only going to be staying in this house for 3 years because you're going to get a new contract somewhere down the line. Yeah. And you want a fixed rate right now. Do a lower thing. So, the question, why to go to a mortgage agent? We have a lot of variety. We have more mortgage products than an individual bank has, right? They'll show you their one. I'll show you all of them, right?
Yeah.
And we always,
Do you allow the consumer in on that process? So tell me. So I need a mortgage, Jarek. How does that work? Like, do you come and then we talk, you go through my credentials, my financials, all of that stuff, and then do you just be like, hey Steve, I came up with a list of 2 or 3 great lenders, let's talk a little bit about it? Or do you make the executive decision to be like, this is the best choice for you? Like, as a consumer, how would you walk me through that?
So I always am there as an advisor.
Sure.
Right? So based on, again, the first time we'd meet, we do the 20 questions kind of thing. pull your credit, and go through all the different things, and make sure that you first qualify.
Okay.
Right. And so that's a whole different thing. And we have some ratios that we have to put you in. Now, if you don't necessarily fit in those ratios, we can maybe look at some options to get you to fit in those ratios, or look at alternative lenders that have more flexibility in the ratios.
Got it.
And so from that, depending on which pathway we end up taking, I'll be looking at the lenders based on the criteria that you have told me, saying this is what I want, and this is this. I want maybe portability in my mortgage, or I want awesome prepayment penalties because I'm getting a bonus at the end of the year and I want to dump it in my house, right?
Yeah.
So based on the things that you've told me, I'll come up with a few lenders and say, this is this lender, this is this lender, this is this lender, right?
I love it.
There are some mortgage brokers out there that have, like, they only deal with this lender, and they'll funnel that business in. Because like you said, we're in sales, and sometimes people have quotas, but it's not always right for the client, right? And so we have a fiduciary duty, to do what's best for our client. And this is what I think both of us treat this relationship as. It's not transactional, right? It's not a one and done thing, right? It's the life, right? It's the life. Like, for me, if anytime there's a big change in the mortgage market, I'll look at my files and say, can I save you money, right?
Yeah.
It might cost you money to break it, but can you save money, like, after? Maybe it's a few thousand, maybe it's more than that, right?
Yeah.
If it's a few hundred, it's not worth the stress. It's not this. Like, I'll say I'll update you, but say it's not the right time, right?
Yeah.
But it's a lifetime thing. And same thing with real estate. Like, it's not a transactional thing. And this is what I love about you, is that you become a friend. You become part of the family with your clients, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I strive to do, right? That to me is sales. If you chase money, that's one thing. You're never. I'm not saying you're not going to do well in the business. You probably will, but it's not for me. I can't do that, right? I need to be able to sleep at night. I need to be able to know that when you're under that roof that Stephen Kim sold you, right? That was the best house for them, and this is the best mortgage, and both of us can sleep soundly. Right?
You and we're going to do tons of business together. No, but like, just in hearing the way that you talk and how you treat your business, it's so genuine. It's so authentic, right? That you, like I've always said, fighting for the relationship, right? Whether it's now or whether it's 2, 3, 10 years down the road, I want to build such a phenomenal relationship that these people become advocates for me. Like, I look at, like, I host a monthly poker night, and it's fun. It's wild. Like, we sit at poker night, and it's clients.
That's awesome.
Who are now friends. I'm not saying that I don't have any friends, but I'm just saying, right? Like, they become such great people that I'm like, come to poker night, and they look forward to poker night, and it's so much fun. So I love the fact that you give people options, you guide them, and you advise them through the process.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please stay tuned for part 2 next week. As always, be great, be kind, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.